My family forced me to leave my fiancé because my sister loved him and threatened to ruin my wedding, so I set a trap that destroyed their reputation. I'm the older sister, 28 now, and my sister is 24. From a very young age, it was painfully obvious that I wasn't the favorite child. This isn't just me being bitter, it's just how it was. My parents, whether they realized it or not, made decisions that constantly put my sister Angela in the spotlight while I lingered in the shadows. It started with small things. Birthday parties were a big showcase of this disparity. For Angela's 5th birthday, there was a huge bash with all the frills, clowns, a bouncy castle, the works. My birthday, just a few months earlier, had been a quiet affair at home with a homemade cake and a couple of gifts. Not that I didn't appreciate the effort, but the difference was stark. It seemed like every year her birthday was an event, while mine was an afterthought. School events further highlighted the imbalance. When Angela was in kindergarten, she got a part in the school play. My parents were over the moon. They took time off work, bought her a fancy costume, and invited relatives to come see her perform. Fast forward a couple of years, I had a solo in a school concert. I was nervous and excited, thinking this was my moment to shine and maybe, just maybe, get that same enthusiastic support. The day came, and only my mom showed up, ducking in at the last minute and leaving quickly after without much comment. Dad didn't make it. He had to work late, or so he said. Angela had soccer practice, and that couldn't be missed apparently. Christmas was another time the favoritism was obvious. One year, I remember both of us had been eyeing this video game console that had just come out. We both hinted as much as we could that it was at the top of our lists. Christmas morning came, and there it was under the tree with Angela's name on it. My gift was a book series, which I did want, but it was clear who got the big-ticket item and who got the consolation prize. Angela was ecstatic, and I tried to be happy for her, but it was tough. As we got older, the pattern continued. Angela always had the newer clothes, the latest gadgets, and more freedom. When I asked for a later curfew at 16, it was a flat no with a lecture about responsibility and safety. But when Angela reached the same age, she was allowed to come and go as she pleased with hardly a word said. It wasn't just material things either. It was the attention and emotional investment. Angela struggled in math during middle school, and my parents were all in, hiring tutors and spending nights helping with homework. I was decent at math, actually pretty good at academics all around, but it was just expected, not celebrated. Any achievement I had was met with a smile and a quick pat on the back, then the conversation would shift back to whatever Angela was doing, even if it was just some minor drama with her friends. School was supposed to be my escape, a place where I could shine on my own merits, but even there, the shadow of my sister's favoritism followed me. Throughout elementary and middle school, it felt like I was just going through the motions, invisible unless something went wrong. Take science fair season in the 5th grade. I spent weeks on my project, a detailed model of the solar system where each planet moved on a motorized track. I was so proud of it, working every evening after dinner, painting the planets, wiring the motors, checking every detail. I couldn't wait to show it off at the school science fair, thinking maybe this time my parents would see I was good at something too. The night of the fair, I stood next to my project, eager to explain the orbits and the gears to anyone who'd stop by. My parents promised they'd be there, said they wouldn't miss it for the world. Halfway through the evening, they hadn't shown up, and I was trying not to let it get to me, focusing on the judges' questions and the interested looks from classmates and their parents. Then, finally, my mom and dad rushed in, apologizing for being late. They'd been at a parent-teacher conference for Angela that ran long because her teacher had so many wonderful things to say. They gave my project a quick glance, threw in a couple of "looks great, honey," then spent the rest of the evening talking to other parents, bragging about Angela's latest achievements in drama club. My project won 2nd place, a ribbon that I hung on my bedroom wall, a small victory overshadowed once again by Angela's ever-expanding trophy shelf. In middle school, things didn't get much better. I was in advanced classes, pulling top grades, but my academic success was just expected, not celebrated. Angela, meanwhile, struggled with her grades, which meant she got all the attention at home, tutors, nightly homework help, endless praise for every B she brought home. During one memorable parent-teacher night, I overheard my math teacher telling my parents how well I was doing, how I was a shoo-in for the advanced math track in high school. They nodded, smiled, and then immediately asked about extracurriculars that might be good for Angela, who was waiting at home. My achievements were just a footnote in their discussions, always overshadowed by Angela's needs and activities. It wasn't just academics. In 8th grade, I tried out for the school volleyball team. I made the team but barely played in games, spending most of my time on the bench, watching, waiting for a chance to prove myself. When I told my parents I was on the team, they were happy enough but never came to the games. They were too busy with Angela, who had started taking dance classes around the same time, classes that apparently couldn't be missed. High school offered a fresh start, or so I thought. I was determined to make it different, to stand out in ways that couldn't be ignored. I joined clubs, volunteered, and continued to ace my classes. But at home, it was the same story. Angela had entered high school too, and suddenly her transition, her experiences, her life took center stage. Sophomore year, I was elected vice president of the student council. It was a big deal for me. I'd worked hard, campaigning, staying late for meetings, organizing events. I was buzzing with excitement the day I found out I'd won, practically bouncing through the door when I got home. I couldn't wait to share the news. That excitement fizzled out fast when I walked into the kitchen to find my family in the middle of a celebration. Angela had made the cheerleading squad. There were balloons, cake, the whole 9 yards. I stood there, holding my good news in my throat, suddenly feeling foolish for thinking this might be my moment. I mentioned my election offhand during dinner, trying to keep the disappointment out of my voice. There were congratulations, sure, a momentary pause in the Angela-centric conversation, but quickly the focus shifted back to her, to what cheers she would be doing, to how we needed to rearrange our schedules for her practices and games. It was a pattern that repeated over and over throughout high school. Every achievement I had was overshadowed by something, anything Angela did. My role in the National Honor Society was less important than her lead in the school play. My perfect attendance awards were less noteworthy than her participation in the spring musical. It all came to a head during our senior year. College application season was stressful for everyone, but I had my sights set on a few top schools, places I dreamed of attending since freshman year. I worked diligently on my applications, essays, and SAT prep. When acceptance letters started coming in, I was over the moon. I got into several of my top choices, each acceptance a confirmation that my hard work wasn't for nothing. The day I got my acceptance to a prestigious out-of-state university, I was ecstatic. This was it, my ticket out, my chance to really start my own life away from the shadow of my sister. I gathered up the acceptance letters, planning to show them to my parents that evening, but when I got home, the focus was all on Angela. She'd been accepted to a local college, a good school, but nowhere near as competitive. My parents were thrilled, talking about how they could visit her easily, how she'd be close to home. When I showed them my letters, they were happy for me, but the conversation quickly turned back to logistics for Angela, to keeping her close, to making sure she wouldn't have to go too far from the safety net of home. My moment, like so many others, was swept aside. My decision to go to that out-of-state university was met with concerns about distance and safety, not with pride or excitement. It was clear that no matter what I achieved, Angela's comfort and happiness would always come first. That realization hurt, but it also lit a fire in me. I was determined to go to that university, to start fresh, to build a life where I was more than just Angela's older sister, where my achievements and my happiness could stand on their own. Moving out was my declaration of independence, a loud statement that I was done being the backdrop to someone else's vibrant painting. I was 20, balancing a full course load at university, while working part-time to scrape together enough for rent and tuition. It wasn't easy, but every challenge I faced in my cramped one-bedroom apartment was a testament to my resilience, a badge of honor I wore with a mix of pride and relief. The decision to move out wasn't made on a whim. It was the culmination of years of feeling sidelined, of watching my sister Angela receive all the familial support and attention while I was expected to be self-sufficient. This dynamic didn't improve with age. If anything, it became more pronounced. As we grew older, my achievements, no matter how significant, were always overshadowed by the smallest of Angela's accomplishments. The day I left, I packed my belongings into a couple of suitcases and boxes, the sum total of my life fitting neatly into the back of an old car I had bought with my savings. There were no tearful goodbyes or heartfelt wishes for luck, just a brief, somewhat awkward exchange with my parents, who seemed more confused by my decision than anything else. Angela didn't even realize I was moving out until she saw the empty space where my things used to be. Settling into my new apartment was a reality check. The place was small, the walls were thin, and the furnishings were a mishmash of whatever I could afford, from thrift stores and clearance sales. But it was mine. For the first time, I had a space where I could make the rules, where I could come home and know that everything was exactly where I had left it, where the silence was for my contemplation and not a side effect of being ignored. Managing my finances was one of the biggest challenges. I quickly learned to budget like a pro, juggling bills, rent, and tuition payments with the meager earnings from my part-time job. Groceries were bought on sale, luxuries were few and far between, and every penny spent was carefully considered. Nights out with friends were replaced by nights in with textbooks and instant noodles. It was a stark contrast to my life at home, where Angela's wants often translated into expenses that my parents didn't think twice about. Balancing work and study was another hurdle. My days were a blur of classes, library sessions, and long shifts at a local cafe. I would come home exhausted, my body aching for sleep but my mind racing with everything I needed to do to stay ahead. Despite the exhaustion, there was a profound satisfaction in knowing that every grade I earned, every rent payment I made, was a result of my own efforts. There was no overshadowing. Here, my successes and failures were entirely my own. Socially, it was isolating at times. I watched my classmates head out for evenings of fun while I headed to work or back to my apartment to study. I envied their freedom, their careless laughter that seemed so far removed from my own responsibilities. But this period taught me a lot about myself. I learned that I could rely on my own strength, that I could face challenges head-on and come out the other side stronger for it. There were moments of doubt, of course. Nights when I lay in my bed, listening to the sounds of the city and wondering if I had made a mistake. In those moments, the weight of what I had taken on felt overwhelming. But then I would remember the reasons why I left. I thought about the constant comparisons, the way my needs had always come second to Angela's, the way my parents had managed to make even my accomplishments feel like they were lacking somehow. These reflections steeled my resolve. They reminded me that moving out was not just about finding a place to live. It was about finding a place to grow, to understand who I was outside of the family dynamics that had shaped so much of my life. It was about breaking the pattern of being an afterthought in my own story. As I moved through my university years, the distance from my family allowed me to build a life that felt genuinely mine. I made friends, connections that were based on mutual respect and shared experiences rather than familial obligation. I became involved in university activities, taking on roles that challenged and excited me. Each success was a building block in my newfound self-esteem, each failure a lesson rather than a mark against my worth. By the time I graduated, I had a solid group of friends, a degree, and a job lined up. The pride I felt walking across that stage to receive my diploma was untainted by any need for validation from my family. I had proven to myself that I could make it on my own terms, and that was enough. Reflecting on those years now, I realize how crucial they were in shaping the person I have become. They were a time of growth, of trial and error, of setting the foundations for the life I wanted to lead. They taught me about the value of independence, not just financially but emotionally and mentally. Moving out might have started as a way to escape the favoritism that so defined my relationship with my family, but it became so much more. It was the beginning of truly understanding my worth, of seeing that I was capable of so much more than being the overlooked older sister. It was hard, yes, and lonely at times, but it was also one of the most empowering decisions I ever made. After graduating from university, I found myself in a place of solid independence. I was financially stable, emotionally more resilient, and professionally just starting to make my mark. It was around this time that Ricky and I took our relationship from good friends to something more. We had known each other since our second year of university, but it was only after we both had settled into our careers that we began to see each other in a new light. Ricky was different from anyone I'd ever dated. He was incredibly supportive, genuinely interested in my thoughts and feelings, and never made me feel overshadowed or less important. Our relationship grew naturally, filled with deep conversations, shared interests, and a mutual respect that I'd always longed for but never quite experienced. I think what made our relationship so special was the fact that Ricky knew all about my family dynamics. He'd seen firsthand how my achievements were often brushed aside, how my parents' blatant favoritism toward Angela affected me. He understood my need for space from them, my drive to prove myself on my own terms, and rather than judge or pity me, he stood by me, offering support and understanding. About 5 years into our relationship, when I was fully immersed in my career and we were both secure in our life paths, Ricky proposed. It wasn't a grand gesture, no public displays or elaborate setups. It was perfectly us, simple, sincere, and private. We had gone hiking, something we both loved, on a crisp fall day when the leaves were just turning. We reached a lookout point with stunning views of the valley below, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. We were sitting there, catching our breath and taking in the beauty of the moment, when he turned to me, his expression serious but his eyes warm. He took my hand and, with a gentle but earnest tone, started talking about our journey together, how much he valued our relationship, and how he couldn't imagine his life without me. Then he pulled out a small, simple ring and asked if I would marry him. I didn't hesitate. I said yes, of course. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, filled with pure joy and a sense of rightness that I had never felt before. We sat there for a long time, talking about our future, making plans, and just enjoying the realization that we were going to spend our lives together. Telling my family, however, was a different story. Given the strained relations, I wasn't sure how to approach them about my engagement. Ricky, ever the optimist, encouraged me to give them a chance to share this happy news and maybe, just maybe, mend some fences along the way. After all, they didn't even know I was dating, and I don't think they cared. Ricky finally persuaded me to tell them, so I went home one weekend with him. That day, he was looking so good I had to tease him about trying to impress my parents, and he didn't deny it. My sister wasn't home when we arrived, but she came in a few minutes later. Can you imagine that she kept flirting with him even after she found out that I brought him home as my fiancé, who I was obviously going to marry? I was irritated at my sister's behavior and the fact that my mom said nothing to her. Ricky helped me keep my cool, though, because he held me tightly to his side the whole time. My parents seemed happy for me. Well, it's not like they had a choice. I wasn't there to take permission, but to inform them of my decision. After some weeks, Ricky took me to one of our favorite places and noticed that he was being extra gentle with me. He did that when he had something serious to tell me, or something he wasn't comfortable with, so I braced myself for it. I was so curious that before we got to the restaurant, I asked him what the problem was and what he wanted to tell me. He asked me to calm down and that he wasn't running away. He told me that my sister had been flirting with him since they met. She found him on social media and wouldn't let him be, so now it was uncomfortable for him. She told him to leave me because she was better for him than I was. I was furious. How far could she really go? I didn't want to speak to her on the phone, so I told Ricky that I was going to my parents' house the next day to set things straight. Thanks so much for all your support and good luck messages. They really mean a lot to me, especially given everything that's been going down. So here's the lowdown. I decided to confront my family about a pretty serious issue that's been bugging me for a while. I figured Saturday would be a good day to catch everyone at home. I had called ahead to let them know I was coming over because I wanted to talk about something important. My mom also mentioned she wanted to talk, which had me hoping maybe we could clear the air or sort things out. I arrived at my parents' house around noon, thinking this was going to be a constructive discussion, but oh boy was I wrong. I started off by bringing up the issue that's been eating at me. My sister has been openly flirting with my fiancé, Ricky, and it's not something I can just brush off. I mean, there are plenty of fish in the sea, and she needed to back off since Ricky's clearly taken. Thinking about the whole situation was making me nauseous, but I laid it all out, expecting some kind of understanding or at least a plan to address it. That's when my mom hit me with a bombshell. She told me the real reason she wanted to talk was that my sister had apparently fallen head over heels for Ricky since she first met him. And then, without skipping a beat, she actually asked me to break things off with Ricky and let my sister have him because she was in love. I was completely floored. How could they even suggest something like that? Ricky isn't some object to be passed around based on who likes him more. I told them straight up that they were being incredibly selfish and that I was disgusted by even the thought of being associated with such a mindset. While my mom did all the talking, my sister just sat there crying those big fake crocodile tears, and my dad was just a silent figurehead as usual, going along with whatever my mom said. My mom tried to guilt-trip me by saying that I was being selfish for putting my own happiness before my sister's desires, that I never learned to think about others, a ludicrous statement if there ever was one. I shot back, telling them there was no way I was going to ditch Ricky. We've been together for 5 years, we're engaged, and my sister's fleeting crush wasn't enough to make me even consider such a ridiculous idea. That's when things got even uglier. My mom declared that if I couldn't do this for my sister, then they wouldn't come to my wedding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was this really the family I grew up with? By then it was clear my dad wasn't going to stand up for what was right. He's never been one to challenge my mom or take a stand. After dropping that bomb, I just left. I couldn't take another minute. I was so shaken up that I broke down crying in my car as I drove away. It felt like my whole world had shifted. Who were these people? How could they expect me to sacrifice my happiness like that? Ricky was equally shocked when I told him. He knew my family was difficult, but he didn't realize the extent until now. I apologized that my family drama was now spilling over into our life together. Even saying it out loud, how ridiculous this all was, felt surreal. So now I'm at a crossroads. My family's ultimatum hangs over me like a dark cloud. It hurts knowing that they might not be at my wedding, but at the same time, do I really want such toxicity at one of the happiest days of my life? Ricky and I have some thinking to do, but one thing's for sure, we need to surround ourselves with people who love and support us, not those who see us as pawns in their selfish games. I'm trying to stay positive and focus on the good things I have going for me, but it's tough. The support from this community has been incredible, and I can't thank you enough. It's comforting to know I'm not alone in this. I'll keep you all updated as things develop, but for now, my focus is on maintaining my peace and planning a future with Ricky, hopefully free from any more unnecessary drama. Thanks again for being here for me. So, where to start? Well, the wedding preparations have been one of the few highlights lately. Everything is picking up pace, and seeing it all come together is really exciting. We've nailed down the venue, caterer, and the band, and I've been diving into all the small details that make the day special. It's been a nice distraction from the other, less pleasant stuff. But as you guessed, not all is smooth sailing. Despite Ricky blocking her, my sister still seems to think she has a chance with him. It's beyond frustrating and, frankly, quite delusional. Ricky has made it clear he's not interested, and honestly, every attempt she makes just drives a bigger wedge between us. I never imagined having to deal with something like this from my own sister. It's surreal. My friends have been amazing through all this. They've really stepped up, helping not just with the wedding but also being there for me emotionally. My best friend even attempted to talk some sense into my mom and sister, calling them to explain how their actions were affecting me. Unfortunately, that conversation didn't go well. They're both as stubborn as ever, with my mom even admitting she only threatened to skip the wedding to try and break Ricky and me up. She thought if she pushed hard enough, I'd end my engagement with Ricky to keep the peace. I couldn't believe what I was hearing when my friend relayed the conversation. It was like living in some bizarre world where up is down and right is wrong. When I heard my mom actually thought she could manipulate me like that, I just laughed. It's ridiculous how she believed she holds so much power over my decisions. While I would love for my family to be at my wedding, I've realized that their presence isn't worth the cost of my happiness. If they want to miss out on one of the biggest days of my life over something so petty, then maybe it's better they don't come. I still went ahead and sent them invitations, though. I figured it was the mature thing to do, to give them one last chance to be part of my life in a meaningful and positive way. But honestly, I've set my expectations pretty low. Their response, or lack thereof, will tell me everything I need to know about where we stand. If they decide to come, acknowledge their mistakes, and genuinely want to support me, then maybe there's a sliver of hope for mending our relationship. On the other hand, if they choose to continue with their current behavior, I'm fully prepared to cut them out of my life for good. I can't keep dealing with their negativity and manipulation. It's exhausting, and it's not how I want to live. I've realized that just because someone is family doesn't mean you owe them endless chances, especially when they've repeatedly shown they don't respect you or your choices. As the wedding day approaches, I'm trying to focus on the positive aspects and the people who genuinely support and love me and Ricky. We're both incredibly excited about starting our new life together, and we won't let anyone's selfishness or drama overshadow our joy. I'm looking forward to celebrating our love with friends and family who care about us and want the best for us. Thanks again for sticking with me through this wild ride. Your messages of support and shared experiences have been a beacon of light in what has been a pretty dark time. Hey everyone, checking in from my honeymoon spot, and I'm still buzzing with excitement and happiness. I can't believe it, I'm actually married to the absolute love of my life, Ricky. Just typing that out feels surreal, like I'm living in a dream. And honestly, I couldn't be happier. The wedding itself was everything I ever dreamed of, and then some. It was a beautiful day filled with love, laughter, and lots of dancing. Being surrounded by friends and Ricky's family, who have shown nothing but love and acceptance, really made the day magical. They've become my family now, and their warmth and kindness have meant the world to us both. However, not everything was perfect, and there was a bittersweet tinge to the day. Despite hoping otherwise, my own family didn't show up. It was painful, really painful. Throughout the ceremony, I found myself glancing over at the seats where I hoped to see them, holding on to a shred of hope that they'd walk through the door at the last minute. but they never came. Ricky noticed what I was doing and at one moment just pulled me close and whispered for me to focus on us, on the beautiful beginning we were about to embark on. He reassured me that right then, it was just about the two of us, and that was all that mattered. His words helped more than he might realize. They reminded me that while the absence of my family hurt, it didn't define our day or our lives together. We were there to celebrate our love and commitment to each other, and nothing could take away from that. The support from Ricky's family was overwhelming in the best way possible. They filled so much of that empty space with their presence and love, making sure every moment was a celebration. After the wedding, saying that I was emotionally drained would be an understatement. It's hard to grapple with the fact that my own family chose not to be a part of one of the most important days of my life. At times, I wonder if they'll ever come around or if the rift between us will just keep growing. Right now, my heart feels a bit numb toward them, like I don't even recognize them as my parents or my sister anymore. I don't know if that will change in the future, but right now, I'm choosing happiness. I'm choosing to focus on the new family I've gained through Ricky and on our future together. The joy of the day, despite the shadows, affirmed that Ricky and I can face anything as long as we have each other. Our wedding day, despite the absence of my biological family, was genuinely the best day of our lives because it represented us moving forward together, stronger and more in love than ever. So here I am, a newly married woman, incredibly excited about what lies ahead. I'm looking forward to building our life together, filled with love, respect, and mutual support. The path may not always be smooth. Life's like that, after all, but I know we'll navigate it together.